everybody, welcome to Burton Avenue. I'm Angie and I love my cutter. I can show you how to make amazing things with your cutting machine, like wooden signs, home decor, custom apparel, and more. I want you to love your cutter too. Welcome to day 25 of my 25 Days of Craftmas series. In this series, I'm showing you how to make 25 different Christmas projects using a cutting machine. And I'm sharing the SVG files I used to make these projects for free. So if you've missed any of the previous days, be sure to check them out. For our last project, I'm showing you how to make this personalized Christmas tree sign. These signs are super popular right now and are so fun to make, especially when you can personalize them with your own last name. This project is an easy one and only requires a few supplies. You'll need a piece of wood, vinyl and transfer tape, paint, and your cutting machine. You can find the complete list of supplies below or over on my blog at burtonavenue.com. Now let's head over to the craft room and get started. The first thing we need to do is grab the SVG file we'll be using for this project. You can get it for free on my blog at burtonavenue.com. I keep all the SVG files for the projects I make in my free SVG library. These files will work with all kinds of cutting machines and are free to everyone. Once you're on my site, just click on Free SVG Files and then Free SVG Library. You'll need a password to get into the library, and there are instructions on the screen if you need to get one. Once you're in the library, you can search for the file Christmas Tree Farm. It will either be listed under the most recent projects and cut files or under the Christmas category 25 Days of Craftmas 2019 Day 25. So go ahead and click on that link and the file will be downloaded onto your computer. Now when you download files online, they usually come in a zipped folder and you'll need to extract them before you can use them in your software. To do this, you're going to double click on the zipped folder we just downloaded. A new window will pop up and somewhere you should see the option to extract all. Click on that and you'll see another window open. This will show you the destination where your unzipped files are going to be saved. Click on the extract button and the files will be unzipped and ready to use in Cricut Design Space. So let's head over to Cricut Design Space and start a new project. Over on the left, click on Upload, then Upload Image, and then click Browse. Find the SVG file we unzipped earlier. Sometimes the SVG files will appear as a Chrome HTML document, so if you don't see SVG file listed, be sure to look for that. Now double-click on the file name, and then click Save. Select the file one more time and choose Insert Images. And now the design will appear on your Canvas screen. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this text and put in our own family name. So you need to right-click and choose Ungroup, and then do that one more time. Right-click and choose Ungroup. Now we can select these letters and delete them. Now we can add our own personal name. So go over and click on Text and then type in your family name. To change the font, you're going to select the text and then go up here to the font box, click on the arrow, and then you can select your fonts. I'm going to use Arial Narrow. And then out here I'm going to choose Bold. Now some of these letters are spaced kind of funny, so we're going to fix that. We're going to select the design, right click, and choose Ungroup. And this just separates each letter to its own layer. So now we can select the design and move the letters closer to one another. Once everything looks good, we can drag the design up here and then resize it so it fits with the rest of the design. Now to center this with the rest of the design, I'm first going to right click and choose Weld, and then select that part of the design and then hold down the Shift key and select the red part of the design. Then go up here, choose Align, and then center horizontally. We're going to do a couple more things before we send it to the cutter. I'm going to select everything, right click, and choose Weld. And now we're going to turn the design into a stencil. We're going to do this by clicking on Shapes and Square. And then we're going to size this square so it's the same size as our wooden sign. So my sign measures about 23.5 inches by 11.25 inches. So I'm going to go up here to the size box and click on the padlock. And then I'm going to change the width to 23.5 and the height to 11.25. Now this gray box represents the size of my wooden sign. So I'm going to click on Arrange and Send to Back so that I can see the design in front. And now I'm just going to resize the design so it looks good on the rectangle. Once it's a good size, we're going to select both the design and the rectangle, click on Align, and choose Center. And that will center our design perfectly within the rectangle. One last step is to select everything, right click, and choose Attach. Now we can send it to our Cricut to cut. So go up and click on the green Make It button. And this screen will pop up. And this is a reminder that we need to use a larger cutting mat since our design is bigger than 11.5 inches. So click OK, and then if everything looks good on the sign, click on Continue. Select your machine from the drop-down list. Once Design Space finds your Cricut, you'll be taken to this screen. I'm using stencil vinyl for this project, so I made sure that my dial was turned to custom. Then I can click on Browse All Materials, scroll down to the bottom and choose Stencil Vinyl. Then click Done. Now I can load the cutting mat. Place a piece of vinyl on your cutting mat. Smooth it out so there aren't any wrinkles or bubbles. Then load it into your cutting machine by pressing the up and down arrow button. Once your Cricut is ready to cut, the C button will light up. Press this and the machine will begin cutting. Once it's finished, press the up and down arrow again to unload your mat. Now that our vinyl is cut, we're going to get our wood ready to stencil. Start by lightly sanding the entire piece of wood. Brush off any sawdust and then paint the sign white. You'll probably need a couple of coats of paint to completely cover the wood. While the paint is drying, we can get our vinyl stencil ready. So weed away the excess vinyl. And since we're creating a stencil, we'll be pulling out the letters. Use a weeding tool to get the small pieces out. Once everything has been weeded, it's time to apply the transfer tape. Cut a piece of transfer tape a little bit bigger than the design. Place the vinyl design on the transfer tape. Use a scraper to rub over the design. Then trim off the excess transfer tape. Flip the vinyl over so it's facing down and then pull off the vinyl backing. I like to do it this way so the vinyl doesn't curl. Once the white paint on the wood is completely dry, place the vinyl on it. Match up the straight edges of the stencil with the straight edge of the wood. Once it's in place, use a scraper and rub over the entire design to help it stick to the wood. Now, carefully pull off the transfer tape. Next, paint on another coat of white paint. Why do we do this? Because it helps prevent bleeds. Sometimes there are small gaps between the stencil and the wood. Our hope is that the white paint will fill in these gaps instead of our colored paint. Once that white paint is dried to the touch, it's time to fill in the stencil with our colored paints. It's best to do a couple of light coats of paint rather than one thick, heavy coat. Once the colored paint is dried to the touch, carefully pull off the vinyl stencil. You can use a weeding tool to pull out the centers of the letters. The sign looks great at this point, but we're going for a distressed look. Start by lightly sanding the edges of the sign, then sand off some of the colored paint. Next, dip a cheap bristle brush into some black paint and wipe most of the paint off. Then lightly drag the brush across the sign. We're going for light black streaks across the sign, so just let the bristles barely touch the surface of the wood. Once you're done with the streaks, the sign is done. Isn't it fun? And that's all there is to it. Now you have a personalized Christmas tree sign for your home. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you enjoyed all of the projects I shared during the 25 Days of Craftmas series. I hope you'll join me again soon for another project made with your cutting machine. See ya!